Hey, Glenn Hess with Hess Motorsports here. Going to go ahead and give you an installation video on the radiator kit for the YXZ that we've got out now. Shows to be a 130% larger radiator. Got a box here with it boxed up. You'll be receiving a box similar to this with all the components inside. Here's what it consists of. You got a new overflow bottle. Gonna have two mounting brackets for on the side, two angle brackets that go from the side to some zip ties for your radiator hose. You got a bolt set up. We sent some Loctite, some washers, oversized bolts for the rear of the cage back here because the ones that are on it are not long enough. You're going to have a hose adapter and 5 hose clamps with 10 foot of hose. We're going to allow you to cut the hose. There's a little extra hose there so you can cut it to your specifications. There's a zip tie that slipped out of the package. It comes with a plug and play wiring harness. You'll be plugging it right in the front of the factory when you unplug the other one. This will run to the back. We'll show you how to run that later. Okay, move the box. Go ahead and just take the box. Here's the radiator. All right, when you get it in, you can check it for damage, or hopefully there is none. And we're gonna need a razor blade or a knife. Blake's got a nice knife. You gotta watch out when you run that guy. Cut your tape to get your I recommend go ahead and leave the bubble wrap on it for now. One of the first things you're going to want to do is just kind of expose these side brackets here. We weren't sure where they were going to be in the car, exactly how they'd turn out, so we didn't have the holes pre-drilled. So you're going to want to pre-drill these holes based off of your side brackets. These side brackets were designed to go on the radiator in this fashion. All right, grab you a tape measure and something to mark with. You want to start your first hole at a 1/2 inch from the top. So you just put your little mark here. That's where your first one's going to be. You can line up your adjustable bracket here, kind of center it on the hole. And then I just recommend to give you something to drill. And then slide your bracket down, and you'll end up with a 1/2 inch from the bottom also. And you do that on both sides. We'll flip it around. You want to put your holes starting at about a 1/2 inch from the top of the bracket. Just remember you're measuring from the top each time. You can go ahead and put a mark from the bottom too, so you can kind of make sure you end up the same. And then you just want to put your bracket in like so. And then for your 4th hole. Another way you can do this, makes it pretty easy too, is you can grab a vice grip if you want to. If you don't have a center punch or something handy, if you have a vice grip, you can just clamp the bracket in place. Works pretty handy, really. Give yourself a little bit of room. Make sure it's square and parallel. And just take a 1/4 inch drill bit, which is real common, you can find anywhere. Unclip your bracket, move it down to get that fourth hole. Not a very good hammer, off just a little bit on my. Oop, drill moved over too much. All righty, got that done, and then just do the same thing on the other side. Okay. All right, now we've got our holes drilled in our radiator. We set that to the side for right now. We left the bubble wrap protection on it so it doesn't get messed up or anything while you're handling it. I recommend probably take that off almost toward the end of the install. We're gonna take a few things apart now that you're gonna need out of your way to get the wiring ran and get the front radiator out. And so we're just gonna start taking some things apart. But you're gonna need to release these clips here, which have already been released because they got pulled out. Console piece comes out, set it to the side. There's normally a push-in right here that you'll want to remove. So you do that. Then we have to come up here and take this front hood piece off, which takes a 3mm Allen. I don't think you can get to it with the hood on. Yeah, you can. You want to remove these two screws. They just kind of put that right in our way, didn't we? I thought we just hand tightened them last night. I guess Sean hit it with the impact. Okay, that's out, or almost out. Our V-bars are in our way just a little bit, but you can get it by hand. Don't drop them. They go down to Never Never Land whenever you take them out. This panel raises up, slides back, and then come back forward with it underneath the cage. Right in here's where your radiator would be. We're gonna need a 10mm on a gun to pull that off. The center console piece has a little clip here in the middle. Just kind of got to pull back on it slightly, slide it back, and it'll release. Get it out of your way. Now we're at this point here. If you notice, we got the plastic back on. We removed the radiator yesterday, and we'll edit this all so you can figure out what's going on. But we did an install last night of the cage, so we wanted to put the plastic back on when we installed the Hauser racing cage. So that's why this is on now again, and it wasn't yesterday's video. So we're gonna go ahead and run the factory wire that we've got. I'm gonna get that real quick. We're sending you a nice wiring harness. It's a plug and play system. This plugs into your factory system in the front. We're gonna feed it through the car and get it to the back for right now. When you feed this through, you want to make sure that you try to go in along the factory wiring harness as much as possible, and even use the factory looms. I'm feeding it up to Blake right there. He's gonna get where he can plug it in. This will plug right into where you unplugged your factory fan switch. And it's kind of a little bit of a booger to get to. I'll let Blake get it plugged in. Since this is our first install on this, I don't know exactly how much wire extra we have. So we're just gonna put it in place now and kind of run through like the factory harness, but we're not gonna do any zip tying or anything yet. If we end up with any extra wire, I'd rather loop it up here in the front than in the back by the engine. I fed it through here beside the factory harness. You have to pull it out a little bit to get some room, but it'll go through. Blake's gonna pull some of the excess slack. Our plan was to follow the factory tail light harness along the bed floor, along the frame, and then come through later. Like I said, we're going to have this maybe a little bit on the long side, but we'll adjust all that later and zip tie everything in place. If you look under here, you can see what our plans are. But you can undo a lot of these clips and you reuse them and zip tie what you can't. And we're going to come through the bed here. I'm not going to drill a hole through the bed till we get the radiator mounted, but you can just let the wire lay there for now. We know that this is where the overflow bottle has to go. There's really not any better place to put it. So what we've done is allow you to put it about here. It seems to be the least amount in the way. And I've moved it down what you can so you still get your lid on and off. And it seems to fit the best at a slight angle, and it doesn't kink the hose on the bottom. So the next thing we're going to do is drill that with a 1/4-inch bit. I've sent bolts and nuts along. I've got a 1/4-inch drill bit here, a little bit of a long one so I can get away from what I'm doing. But you can do it with a regular one. You can mark the hole however. But I'm actually kind of lining up, following the seam of the plastic, raise up a little so your hose isn't kinked, and punch your hole through. Be careful when you drill through so you don't get into the, and this bit's kind of dull for plastic. And we're going to go ahead and put that bolt in that and get it started. So we can line the other side up real good. We are sending a little tube of Loctite with the kit, but we're going to use our shop bottle instead of the small bottle. Recommend a little bit of Loctite on all of this. And then, like I said, just don't push it down too much. I got it. Here's your nut. Okay. You on this one? Just kind of level the bottle up. Oh, sorry. Good. You don't want to over tighten them. If you put a little Loctite on them, the nuts are serrated. They'll grab into the plastic and not give you any problems. All right, we just let that hose there kind of out of the way. The next thing to do is to grab your brackets. We're going to remove the rear cage bolts. You may notice on our car that we actually took the rear fenders off. You don't have to take them off for this installation, but it's just a little bit easier. I mean, you can work with them on. We've already done one with them on a little bit. It's just a little easier. Go ahead. You're going to disregard these bolts. I've sent longer ones with the kit because these will be too short. You won't have a full nut on them. We're going to reuse the nuts. This is the factory bolt we took out. The new bolts I sent you are a little bit longer bolt, and I also went to a 10.9. Factory was 8.8, which I think it could be a little stronger in my own opinion. So we sent you a little bit heavier bolts. I sent 4 of them. You'll replace them both on each side. You'll reuse your nuts that are from factory. We've got the same thread. We'll pull this side off also. All right, like I said, we're going to disregard the factory bolts. Now your bracketry, and we'll also have to take out this little Torx bolt that's on the side of the cage. That's a shouldered bolt. Thread it on out, set it to the side. You'll need it. All right, now it's kind of decision time for you guys. If you look at these brackets, they're a little bit tricky. They were a son of a gun to get bent the right way and figure it all out. But they essentially set on the car like this, and they bolt into back here in this shoulder. So I want you to, but kind of give it just real quickly. I'm not going to tighten anything up. I'm just going to give you an idea because I want you to be able to figure out. It's decision time on where to put. I've got to run them through with a friggin' wrench. And our slot is just a little bit tight on the threads, but you can run it right through there. It'll thread right in. Go right there. Okay, we'll get the other one in the same position. Okay, we're gonna take the bracket for this side and put it up here like so. And like I said, I'm not tightening any of these because I'm gonna show you why in just a second. But you wanna make sure that you run this back shouldered bolt in enough that it can't jump out of the shoulder before you do these top bolts here. All right, here's your options now, guys. Gals, guys. This part of the bracket goes on the radiator and will go behind the radiator. So you have an option of straight up and down here, straight up and down here, angled here, angled here. And if you want any more options than that, you can drill some more holes, but I've given you quite a few options there. Basically, this one here is as far forward as you can get because of the overflow bottle, and it's a pretty snug fit, as you can see. This gets you back a little bit more. This really puts it down in the car a lot. This will get you a little more airflow into it at an angle. It's all personal preference. There's nothing, no wrong way or no right way, but it's pretty easy to it's a lot easier to get these started on the back of here before you put them on the car, but I would have had a hard time showing you your option. Just holding it, you wouldn't be able to see as easily. But we can go ahead and do it. We're not going to use Loctite for now because we may want to show you the other options of where it can go. And we're only going to put 2 bolts in each one of them. It's set up for 3 bolts in each side. Go ahead and put that side on. The slot goes to the back. And when you note it, make sure that your in and out slot is to the back, and that's onto the radiator itself. We originally weren't going to make these brackets mounted, but I had a lot of people asking about up and down and angle and different scenarios, so we thought this would be the most option for the consumer. And I'm just snugging those up, and I'm not tightening them up at all. And you've got up and down adjustment, as you can see. The reason we did so much adjustment on these brackets is each car is a little bit different, and each one of these seem to fit just a hair different on the car. So with this way, we've got up and down, and we've got in and outs quite a bit.
I would say also depending on accessories that you may be adding,
right.
Speakers, this, that, just say those different things.
And I think,
so go ahead and say that.
Just because of speakers and different things, that was one of our reasons to go ahead and give more options about mounting here. And I even got a couple of guys that have talked about wanting to raise the radiator up enough for a factory box. I haven't seen a factory box to go by, but I think you could probably work off this bracket, or you can always go, you can order it without the brackets. You'd have to call us special to take the brackets out of the kit. I don't know what that price would be off the top of my head, but you can make some other fabrication to mount the radiator up in here. We're going to grab the radiator now. We've already got one radiator that we've been playing with that's got the plastic off of it. I recommend putting the radiator in place before you drill any holes in your bed or anything, just so you know for sure how you want it, because once you drill the holes in the bed, you're pretty dictated to where you need to be. In this scenario here, we're going to use the bottom set of holes, and this is a little bit tricky. Can you get in yours, Blake? All right, if you decide, after you decide what position you want to put your radiator in, then I recommend to take it back out to drill your holes, which you're going to have to. If you go straight up and down in anywhere in this fashion, your top hose is going to need to come through. There's a notch in the bed, and it works best to come right here. It doesn't interfere with your lid or anything going on and off. That's why we've got it angled on the top of the radiator. Then the hose will come down. You'll want a kind of an oval slot in this position. And the bottom hose will come straight through right in this position, so it's right here in the corner. If you'll look from underneath, there's this notch between this package here. Works real good to run your hosing. If you're gonna put it at an angle position, you're gonna need to cut a hole through the bed floor to be able to run the bottom hose. The top one will still run pretty much in the same fashion. These are things you gotta decide where you want it and how you want it mounted. If for some reason you don't like any of those options and you want to run your hoses some other direction, we're just showing what works good for us. It's limitless how you do it. You may have a bed delete kit on your car. All of those things make a difference on running your hose. If you absolutely have to, because you want to run it you can take a hacksaw and cut this off right behind the weld here and have a straight out bung for your hose if the angle makes any problem. Or you can get some angled pieces of hose. We're just giving you the simple options. I'm gonna go ahead and go out to the front panel. That way there's less mud and stuff gets splattered up in your bed from your tire. And it makes it a little bit nicer mounting up here too. All right, so now that we know where we're at, I'm just gonna kind of make a visual look at it. Radiator hose needs to come in right beside, to the left of the factory bracket. And the upper one's gonna come in, I'm gonna make it come in right here below this corner. Looks like that'll fit the best. I don't know if this marker's gonna show very much on this, but basically, I'm gonna get into this area right in here. And I'm sure it's showing. And the other one's gonna be down into this area. That's okay. That's pretty much in line, isn't it, Blake? Can you see? Yeah, pretty good in line. This in here will work right there. You can do a slotted hole if you want to, or you can take a hole saw and drill holes. We're gonna run 1-inch radiator hose. We're gonna take the radiator back out now. All right, you can kind of see, I got a kind of scribble mark, but you can get an idea there. I'm gonna get a hole saw, and you want to go ahead and try to start as close to that bracket as possible where you miss it, but high enough where your bottom of your, that's going to be about perfect. If it's not, you can move over, but you want to go ahead and cut it at the angle the hose is going to be running, which is like so. So it's going to make a little bit of an oval shaped hole. That worked out real good. And then this top one is kind of the same scenario. You want to be down just enough to clear the lid. And then you want to tilt your angle over the same angle as the hose is running as much as possible. And you see I'm straight in line right here. You gonna get that, Petey? So I put my drill straight in line with the way the hose is going. See how I'm in line with the middle of that? And my piece inside from a minute ago is jacking me around. Now we got our 2 holes for our hose to go through. May try to clean off some of the burrs and stuff a little bit with a Stanley knife. Works pretty good. I think there's one over here. Just kind of clean her up a little bit. Piece of sandpaper works pretty good too. A coarse piece of sandpaper. You can kind of break them off with your fingers. All right, we've got our holes drilled where our hose is going to come through. The next thing we need to do is take the hose off of the water pump down here, and we're going to take the hose off of the line that runs up to the front that you should have probably already removed. We're going to allow the hose coming from the thermostat housing to remain. It's got a factory bend in it, and we're worried that if we try to put any other kind of hose there, it would try to kink. So we're going to come off right here. I'm going to get in here where you can see. All right, we're going to take the hose off of this line that's running forward. If you've already removed the hose line, that's fine. If you're going to leave the line, you can just droop down below it. It won't hurt anything. Let it there. Just would be a good idea to cap it if you leave it in the car, so don't get mud and debris in it. The other line is down under here a little further, going to the water pump, and it's right behind the flywheel. It's a little bit more difficult to get to, but not too awful hard. These are spring-loaded pliers style clips. You got to squeeze them and pull them off. They come off pretty easy. That one came off pretty easy. We'll try to get the one off the water pump. It's a little more difficult to get to. We're sending you regular clips back. We don't recommend reusing these style clips. They're pretty much a one-time deal. They get hot and they don't really work as good as they should. The clamp is coming down the hose on the water pump side, works pretty good. Squeeze it and just slide it down. Then reach under here and start wiggling, and that came off pretty easy. I had a little bit of antifreeze left in the hose there, and I'm just gonna let it go to the side. We're gonna end up having to take it off here also to get it out of the way. We need a side cutter to cut some zip ties off the hose that's there. We're just gonna totally take that hose out of the way. This will be your lower radiator hose, the one coming from the water pump. It's a little booger to get to, but not too bad. If for any reason you had your headers off your car when you were doing this radiator install, it would make it easier, but not necessarily to take it off. You can just kind of fight it. He did get it off. We're cutting the zip ties now that hold the electrical lines and stuff to that water hose, so we can get that water hose completely out of the way. And we'll zip tie it back to our new water hose when we get ready. You might have to wrestle with it a little bit, try to twist it, and puke a little antifreeze out too. There's your lower radiator hose. You just throw it on. We're just gonna throw it on the floor under the car. Now we've got to try to get this top one off of there, which I think might be easiest to. There. I got it off by just pushing on it pretty hard. We sent you 5 hose clamps and a hose adapter. We're going to go ahead and just set them in the bed out of the way at the moment. We're going to feed this hose. All right, we're going to do the lower hose first after all. And what we recommend was to come through your lower hose. We're going to come on this side of the frame rail right here. We're going to go through this point right here between the back of the seat area. And I'm going to slide a hose clamp on there now so I don't have to try to put one on in a minute. I'm just going to keep it slid up my hose. The easiest way to get to that one is probably going to be with the hose clamp turned. The easiest way to get to it is going to be with the hose clamp turned up with it facing toward the back of the car. And I'm going to keep sliding up the hose so it don't slide off and fall off on me. As you can see right here, this is our water pump. We've got our clamp on. We used a long extension, as you can see right here. It came through with an extension and a ratchet and tightened our clamp up. There's a little bit of a booger to get on, but you can get it. As you can see, we're following down here, pretty much like the original one did. We're coming up between the frame and the body right here. There's no sharp edges, just be careful. We put a little bit of a loop in it downward. Don't go so much that it kinks in this area. You gotta watch that real close. If your hose is trying to kink, you can rotate them and try to get that where it won't kink usually. Come on up through here, following the frame here, and we came into our hole that we cut in the bed right here for our lower radiator hose. We've got all the excess sticking into the bed. We haven't trimmed anything off yet, and I'm really happy with the way it all is. We're not gonna zip tie anything in place until we finalize everything. Now we're ready to run our upper hose. We're getting ready to run the upper radiator hose. In your kit, there's a little piece of rubber that we sent along to try to put on here for a little protection. I've got some wind lace ordered, but unfortunately didn't make it for these first kits. It slips on just like so, because our radiator hose is gonna run down the inside of the frame, right past here, and we're gonna go to this hose right here with our hose adapter. So, yeah, I recommend to zip tie that little bracket on. Blake's gonna throw a zip tie around it so it doesn't get away. And then make sure that you put your zip tie after it's tight, you don't have the head facing forward where it would rub in the hose. Cut off your tails off your zip ties so they don't get in the way or give any interference. It may help to have somebody hold this hose on the back side so it don't push away so bad, because it's not rigid at all. So I'm holding it so he can push the hose adapter on. You may ask why we have a hose adapter. We're actually going from 22 millimeter hose that Yamaha uses to 1-inch hose. 1-inch hose is what came off the water pump, so we decided 1-inch is what we'd use on everything. It's way more readily available. If you ever needed to fix anything at a race or something, you can get 1-inch radiator heater hose at any parts store. 22 millimeter, that's a tough one to find. It's nice to have someone help you do this. It's very difficult for one person to do it all by yourself. It's good to have a buddy working with you. You can even get the wife or girlfriend out there. All right, we got the hose adapter onto the original thermostat, hose coming from the thermostat. Got both of our clamps good and tight. This is the line running right here. On the inside of the frame rail, you notice we got a little rub protector right here, and we'll push, and it's coming up on the inside of the rail and coming into across the frame rail right here. Underneath this box, you really can't see it, but it gets on top of the frame rail and then comes through our upper hose hole in the bed. So the next thing we got to do is get our lengths kind of figured out. As you notice, we gave you extra hose so you can, when your different configurations of mounting, you've got plenty of option there. That's why we didn't cut anything specific length, and then you end up going, oh, it's too short or it's too long, won't work this way. Less mistakes. I'm too short. All right, I'm marking it at the front of the radiator there. Okay, let's pull it up around. Marks on that side there. Can you see a mark? Yeah. Where do you see that? Okay. Got this. All right, hose clamp right here. Flip that on. Put it whichever way it's just to get to it like that. But it's facing that way on the top, right?
Yeah, I think so. Now it's going to take. It's taller.
I think you just have to stand on top of the tire to get to it.
Grab the e-brake.
Go and feed me hose is what's happening. I can't pull it forward. Okay, that's it. All right, it tried to kink on me. Got a big kink in it.
Big kink in it?
Yep. Let's come back off. We're gonna have to twist a little bit. Well, hold on. Now the kink came out. What'd you do? It's good now.
I got a big bunch of slack down there.
You got too much slack?
Yeah.
Do we need to shorten it? Is that why it was trying to kink on us? I mean, I'm good here now, but you have too much slack?
It's fine.
It's okay? It'll work?
Yeah.
All right. It was only kinked because you had too much hose this direction. All right, we're gonna let that one go. We could tighten her up real quick and drive her a little hand ratchet where you can kind of really tell them how much you're putting on it. Pretty good. That all looks fine. Now we're ready for our upper hose. How's that one looking down where you're at, Blake?
That's about where I needed at.
That's where you need it at, so I'm going to cut it right here. Where'd that cutter go? Mark it right here. Other hose clamp right there. I'm good. Are you kinked anywhere?
Nope, I'm good here.
That worked real good. We're going to put the overflow bottle nipple in right now. It comes here on the side. It was on the blue tape right by your valve cap, your radiator cap. Get the cap off and get in there a little bit easier to work on that. It's aluminum fitting, don't twist it off. Just tight. And it looks to me like the hose, rest routing for the hose is going to be back around this way.
Smaller hand.
I got it now. I'm running up behind the bracket, kinda. And I think that's the best way. You make sure that it's down all the way into the bed so you don't kink it, which cut it off about right there. Makes all the difference in the world. I sent some small zip ties along. That's really all it takes. There should be 2 tiny ones or 3. You're gonna have a hard time getting the one on the bottom of the reservoir because I should have done put it on. But this is my car. Sorry I forgot that, guys. We're going to tighten the cage bolts and everything up next. We got 2 little side brackets. Actually, yeah, if you got a little 2 pieces of wood or something to set it on, it always helps, and you can just push it down onto it. Wasn't that lucky, didn't have everything handy. 3 inch down. This side needs to come up. Oh, that's easy. Okay, we need to tighten these bolts. We catch a back up on the back side. Middle. Top. Bottom. I've got a 5/8 drill bit. We're going to drill through the bed side right here for our wiring connector to fit through. If you don't have a 5/8, you can use a wood spade bit, or you can use a 1/2 inch bit, which most people do have in a drill set, and waller it. You can even take a 3/8 bit if you got a small drill set and waller it. But we're going to come through right below this back bracket and run the wiring along here, tie in. We're going to take all of our excess slack and put it up front, whatever's in the harness. Like I said, this is our first time on this harness, so I honestly don't know how much slack I've got. And I'm going to be right here. Or it should be higher than that, Blake. That's about right. Come up a little bit.
Yeah, come up just a hair.
Be careful when you drill your hole because it'll try to pull you into the radiator. All right, we've taken our fan shroud off our radiator to be able to drill some holes in it for some little zip ties. I forgot to send them because I didn't really know how this was going to work. So you'll be getting some in the mail. Otherwise, you can try to figure something else out yourself. But when you're drilling under here for the zip ties, don't drill right over top of the hole like I did because it don't work. So we're having to drill one beside it. And that should take care of that. Now we're gonna put our shrouds back on. And they were little bitty bolts with the washers. I'm just gonna start this one because it don't want to. Pinch out on these little bolts around here. They are going into a nut cert, but I'm worried that that gun would just put too much on them. So I'm just gonna do them by hand. You're going in like this?
Yep.
All of them the same?
Yep.
One more over there. We're going to center this up like this. Now we're going to run some little zip ties around here to do something with this wiring so it all looks nice. We've got some small black zip ties for that, which looks like I need to get some more. That was a, did it break or did it work right?
No, it worked right, but it's not quite where I want it to be. They're flat. But I can't get flat because I'm hitting that. So maybe it's this instead. Try to. So I just can't get in there and cut them flat.
As you notice, we're wrapping up our wiring right here. We took a little extra time to zip tie our wiring, make it look as nice as possible, as clean as possible from the back. I hate when something's flopping and dangling around. I didn't want to run the wiring underneath the bed, so if anything got in here, a stick or a rock or whatever, it wouldn't be trying to rip the wiring out. And that's also why we came all the way over the side of the bed and poked a hole through the bed. Some people may try to come up through here or through your other tie-down area. But my problem with that is if you try to hook something on it, somebody could snag your wire accidentally. There is still going to be enough room just basically for a small cooler back here if you wanted to. But you can always put a soft pack cooler in this thing also. All right, the next thing we're going to work on is we're going to take this wiring and loop it up following the factory taillight wire, and we're going to work all our slack up to the front. And if there's any left over, we'll put a coil there. All right, Blake is taking all our excess wire. We're following along the factory loom. We're putting it through the factory loom so we can. We're zip tying it elsewhere. We're not tightening everything up until we get it all kind of tied in place so we don't want it dangling or getting caught on anything. As you can see, we got a zip tie here. Here's our hole where we came through the bed for some reference. It's kind of like right at that ridge.
Get the
Yeah.
go back.
No.
We ran our wiring through and came up through here, as you can see, plugged in under here to the factory plug-in. This was all extra. It's about almost 3 foot of extra coil there. So we looped it up, zip tied it together so it couldn't rattle or anything. We zip tied our original hose. We didn't take the original lines out of here. They're steel and aluminum combination.
We're just zip tying the radiator hoses up to your frame so they can't flop around. Got a big zip tie. Send 3 big zip ties for you. I'll put another one of them up here. Pull down on your hoses a little bit.
We're gonna have it pull down on the hose just a little bit so it's not rubbing on the top of the plastic here. So just sucking it down a little, not too excessively. You want to be sure you don't do so much that you kink the hose. So always look at it before you pull everything tight. We've got this radiator filler funnel system here. Really works good for bleeding these cars that like to airlock on you. I know a lot of people go through the trouble of finding the bleed hose and everything else, and some cars you just can't get to it, or you can't find it, or it's a pain in the butt and it still don't work. We've had good luck doing without that. If you want to go through the trouble of using a bleeder, that's up to you. We typically don't. It may take us longer to get them bled, but this system here works really well. Put it about half full. We fill the reservoir overflow bottle about halfway full, and we've already put a gallon of coolant in the system. We got probably about 3/4 of a gallon out. I'm sure we lost some, left some in the engine, and lost some on the floor, but not a whole lot. And we're gonna go ahead and get her starter up and let her run, warm up now. You can check everything over and make sure you don't have any leaks anywhere.